It was 2 a.m. when my phone vibrated for the third time. I wasn't planning to answer. In a college dorm, calls at 2 a.m. are almost never good news. It's either someone wasted or someone so lonely they can't stand it anymore. And I didn't want anything to do with either. The screen lit up again. Prescott. His name appeared like something both familiar and annoying, like a song you hate but keeps playing on repeat at the campus cafe. I stared at it. Vibrate, vibrate, vibrate. God damn it. I picked up. What? I said, my voice rough from sleep and the irritation I didn't even want to admit I felt. Silence on the other end. I was about to hang up. Quinlan. Prescott's voice came through, quieter than I'd ever heard it. Gone was the half-cocky, slightly arrogant tone he usually had. Gone was the mocking laugh he used when he called my name in a crowded hallway. All that was left was fragility. Where are you? I asked almost immediately. I hated how fast I reacted. He took a breath, loud enough to hear over the phone. I'm outside the North Dorm. I frowned. At this hour? Yeah. You drunk? No. A long pause. I sat up, leaning my back against the wall. Then why are you calling me at 2 a.m.? On the other end, Prescott didn't answer right away. I could hear the wind. He was probably standing outside, not dressed warmly enough, still acting like he didn't care. Same as always. Then he spoke very slowly. I didn't know who else to call. That sentence hit me square in the chest. I gripped the phone tighter. Where are your friends? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I didn't want to call them. So you called me? Yeah. Why? Another silence. I could almost picture Prescott right now, hands in the pockets of his hoodie, head down, hair messy from the wind, eyes staring at nothing. The version of him he always tried to hide behind jokes and half-smiles. Because you'll pick up, Prescott said. I let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. You're awfully sure of yourself. No, he answered instantly. I just know that. I didn't know what to say. He was right. God damn it. I'm cold, Prescott continued, his voice trembling slightly. And I don't want to go back to my room. What happened? A fight? With who? My roommate. I sighed. That's nothing new. Not like this. The way he said it made me pause. How is it different? Prescott stayed quiet for a long time. So long I thought the call had dropped. Then he spoke, barely above a whisper. They know. My heart skipped a beat. No. What? No immediate answer, but I already knew. I just didn't want to be the one to say it. Prescott. I think they've suspected for a while, he went on, his voice stretched thin. But tonight, they said it out loud. I closed my eyes. And they didn't like it. The air between us grew heavy. I swallowed. What did they say? Stuff like, don't turn this room into a fucking freak show. Prescott laughed softly, but the laugh cracked the second it left his mouth. Real creative, right? I clenched my fist. You okay? No. The answer came instantly. No hesitation. No hiding. And that made it harder to breathe than anything else. Can you come here? Prescott asked, his voice growing smaller. Just for a bit. I glanced at the clock. 2:17 a.m. I had class at 8. I had a mountain of unfinished assignments. And Prescott wasn't he someone I should get involved with? He was the kind of person who complicated everything. The kind who walked into your life, turned it upside down, and could leave at any moment. I knew that. I'd always known that. But where are you exactly? I asked. Prescott exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. The bench near the basketball court. I'm on my way. I hung up before I could change my mind. While pulling on my jacket, I asked myself what the hell I was doing. It was colder outside than I expected. Night wind blew through the campus trees, carrying the dry chill of autumn. Streetlights cast a pale yellow glow on the empty paths. I walked fast, not because of the cold, but because I knew someone was waiting, and for some reason that made my heart beat faster than usual. I saw him from a distance. Prescott was sitting alone on the bench, head down, hands clasped together. His thin hoodie wasn't tee enough to keep him warm, and he looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, less confident, less Prescott. I stopped for a few seconds, just to look, just to make sure. This was real. Then I walked over. You look like shit, I said. Prescott looked up. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw something crystal clear. Relief. You came, he said. Just that. But somehow, it warmed me more than the jacket I was wearing. I stood in front of him for a few seconds, saying nothing more. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I didn't know where to start. He looked different. Not in an obvious way like hair or clothes. It was something deeper. His eyes. The way his shoulders hunched like he was trying to make himself smaller. The Prescott I knew always took up space. Always became the center of attention, whether he meant to or not. But the Prescott in front of me now was just a guy who was cold and had nowhere to go. Did I mention you look like shit? I repeated, softer this time. Prescott gave a weak smile. You did. Yeah, well. Still true. He scooted over on the bench. Sit. I sat down, keeping just enough distance so we wouldn't touch, but not too far. Wind blew between us. You're not dressed warm enough, I said. Didn't think I'd be out here this long. Then go back to your room. Prescott stayed silent. I don't want to. I know you already said that. I sighed. But you can't sit out here all night. So what do you want me to do? I turned to look at him. I don't know. But definitely not freezing to death out here. Prescott stared straight ahead. At least out here no one else looking at me like that. I understood. Way too well. You can stay in my room, I said before I could think it through. The second the words left my mouth, I wanted to take them back. Prescott turned to me, clearly surprised. Really? Yeah. What about your roommate? He went home for the weekend. A pause. You don't have to do this, Prescott said. I know. So why are you? I shrugged. I don't like watching people freeze to death in front of me. Prescott laughed. This time a little more genuine. Fair enough. I stood up. Coming? He looked at me for another second, like he was weighing something. Then he stood too. Let us go. We walked side by side, not saying much. The campus was so quiet you could hear every footstep on the concrete. Streetlights stretched our shadows across the ground. Two shadows almost touching but never quite overlapping. I shoved my hands into my pockets and glanced at Prescott. He was still looking down, but he wasn't hunched up like before. You feeling any better? I asked. Yeah, he replied. A little. A little doesn't sound great. It's not. I didn't argue. Because he was right. We walked a little further before Prescott spoke again. I didn't mean to tell them like that. I figured. I just slipped up. How? Prescott exhaled. They were talking about girls in class. Asking who I thought was hottest. I'm guessing you didn't pick anyone. Yeah. He gave a bitter smile. One of them joked? Or do you like dudes? My chest tightened. And you said yeah? Prescott nodded slightly. Kind of. Without thinking. I was just so tired. We stopped in front of my dorm. I swiped my card. The door beeped open. And then everything went to shit? I asked as we stepped inside. Yeah. Prescott answered. Faster than I expected. I led him up the stairs. What else did they say? Not much. He shrugged. Just enough for me to get the message. I opened my room door. The fluorescent light flicked on, revealing a neater room than usual, mostly because my roommate wasn't there to trash it. Welcome to your temporary residence, I said, tossing my backpack aside. Prescott stepped in and looked around. Cleaner than I expected. I'll take that as a compliment. He pulled off his hoodie and hung it on the chair. I noticed he was still shivering. You really are cold, I said. Yeah. Prescott rubbed his hands together. I'm only feeling it now. I opened my closet and took out a thicker hoodie. Put this on. Prescott looked at me, hesitating. You sure? No, I'm offering it so you can just stare at it. I raised an eyebrow. He smiled faintly. All right. While Prescott put on my hoodie, I turned away, pretending to rummage through my backpack. For some reason, I didn't want to watch. Not because it was wrong, But because I knew if I looked too long, I'd start thinking too much. Thanks, Prescott said behind me. Yeah. We stood in the room, suddenly silent. The space felt different, quieter but closer. You can sleep on my bed, I said. I'll take the floor with a blanket. Prescott immediately shook his head. No way. I can sleep on the floor. I'm not letting a guest sleep on the floor, and I'm not letting the host sleep on the floor. Prescott. Quinlan. The way he said my name made me stop. We can share the bed, he said slowly. Just sleeping. My heart pounded. I don't think that's a good idea. Why? I didn't answer right away. Because I knew exactly why. But I didn't want to say it. Prescott looked at me, his gaze steady. You think I'm gonna try something? No. I answered quickly. It's not that. Then what? I exhaled and looked away. It's just a little tight. Prescott laughed. It's a double bed. How tight can it be? God damn it. He was right. Whatever, I said, finally giving in. But don't kick me off the bed. No promises. We turned off the lights. The room sank into darkness, lit only by the faint glow of the street lamp outside the window. I lay with my back to Prescott, keeping as much distance as possible. But I could still feel him there, close, too close. Quinlan, Prescott whispered. What? Thanks. Yeah. Silence. I thought he'd fallen asleep. Until. Have you ever been scared? I frowned. Scared of what? Like being found out. I gripped the blanket tighter. Yeah. How do you deal with it? I smiled faintly in the dark. If I knew how, I probably wouldn't be lying here with you at 2 a.m. Prescott was quiet. Then he spoke very softly. I don't want to keep pretending anymore. I turned toward the darkness where he lay. Me neither. Neither of us said anything else. But this time the silence didn't feel heavy. Felt like something shared. A secret. A truth. And for the first time that night I felt less alone. I don't remember falling asleep. I just remember that the last moment I was awake, I was staring at the ceiling, listening to Prescott's steady breathing right behind me. We weren't touching, but close enough that I could feel his warmth through the thin blanket. And that, strangely, made me feel safe. I woke up to light, not from a lamp, but sunlight slipping through the curtains, hitting me straight in the face. Shit, I muttered, squinting. My head hurt a little, not from alcohol but from too little sleep. I rolled over, reaching for my phone. And then I realized I wasn't alone. Prescott. He was lying facing me, the space between us. Much closer than I remembered. Way closer. One of his arms was draped across my waist. I froze. My heart hammered so hard I was sure he could hear it. I didn't dare move. Didn't dare breathe too loudly. I just lay there, looking at him. Prescott was sleeping. Really sleeping. Not lightly dozing, but deep and peaceful. His face looked softer, without the usual sharp edges. Younger, and more beautiful in a way that made me uncomfortable. I swallowed hard. This was a terrible idea. An extremely terrible idea. I should remove his arm. I should pull back. I should create distance. But I didn't. Instead, I stayed still, letting myself feel that warmth for a few more seconds. Just a few more seconds. Are you staring at me? Prescott's voice came out hoarse from sleep. I startled and quickly turned away. No. He drew the word out, clearly not believing me. Sure. I felt the arm across my waist tighten slightly, not to hold me, but like an unconscious reflex. Then he pulled it back. The empty space appeared instantly, a little colder. Sorry, Prescott said, sounding more awake now. I didn't realize It's fine, I cut him off. We were just sleeping. Yeah. We lay there quietly for a moment. Neither of us looked at the other. Neither of us mentioned what had just happened. But it was still there, clear as day. You have class? Prescott asked. Hey, what time is it? I grabbed my phone. 7:12. Shit. He sat up immediately. I need to go change. You can borrow my clothes. Prescott turned to look at me, surprised. You sure? Yeah. Unless you want to go to class in last night's hoodie. He looked down at himself and laughed. Yeah, no. That wouldn't be great. I tossed him a t-shirt and jeans. Thanks. Don't get them dirty. No promises. Everything moved quickly after that. We changed, brushed our teeth in silence, then left the room together. The air between us was different, not awkward, but not the same as before, like something had shifted, and neither of us had named it yet. When we stepped outside, the morning sunlight made me squint. Students were starting to appear everywhere heading to class, holding coffee, talking loudly. Normal life, completely opposite of last night. You okay? I asked as we walked toward the lecture buildings. Prescott shrugged. Better. What about your roommate? Still there, I'm sure. You going back? Prescott was quiet for a few seconds. Yeah. I can't avoid it forever. I nodded. But he continued, his voice slowing, if things get bad. You can come back to my room, I said immediately. Prescott looked at me. That same look from last night when I reached the bench. Relief. Thanks. Yeah. We stopped at the fork. I was going one way, he was going the other. A short moment. See you later? Prescott asked. I shrugged. Maybe. He smiled. Yeah, maybe. Then he turned and walked away. I stood there a few seconds longer, watching his back disappear into the crowd. And for some reason, I had the feeling nothing was going to be simple anymore. That morning's lecture was a disaster. Not because the material was hard, but because I couldn't focus. Every time the professor said something, my mind drifted back to last night. To the 2 a.m. call. To the way Prescott said I didn't know who else to call. To his arm around my waist. Quinlan, I jolted. Are you with us? The professor asked. Sorry, sir. A few quiet laughs rippled through the class. I looked down and pretended to take notes, but I didn't write a single word. After class, I had just stepped out of the building when my phone vibrated. Prescott. My heart skipped a beat. I answered. What? You free? His voice sounded normal, no longer fragile like last night. What's up? Lunch? I stopped. Lunch. A simple invitation. But it didn't feel simple anymore. Yeah, I said. Where? The burger place near the library. I'll be there in 10. Cool. I hung up, and then stood still for a few seconds. It was just lunch. No big deal. But I knew very clearly that everything was starting to change. And the scariest part was, I wasn't sure I wanted it to stop. The burger place near the library was always packed at lunchtime. The smell of grilled meat, French fries, and overlapping conversations created the usual noisy atmosphere. I pushed open the door and scanned for Prescott. He wasn't hard to spot. Prescott was the kind of person your eyes automatically found no matter how much he tried to blend in. He was sitting at a table by the window, sunlight slanting across him, highlighting his slightly messy hair and the lines of his face. 2 trays of food sat in front of him. He'd already ordered. I walked over. You ate my portion already? I said, pulling out a chair. Prescott looked up and smiled faintly. If you were 5 minutes later, I might have. I'm on time. Yeah, rare. I raised an eyebrow. You trying to start something? No. He slid the tray toward me. I'm just hungry. I picked up the burger and took a big bite. Yeah, me too. For a while, we just ate. Not saying much. But it wasn't awkward silence, it was comfortable. Like both of us needed a break after last night. Your room okay? I asked after swallowing. Prescott shrugged. Okay. In the sense that no one said anything else. Doesn't sound okay? Yeah. He gave a weak smile. But at least they didn't kick me out. I nodded. What about you? Prescott asked. Morning class. Disaster. Why? Couldn't hear a word. From lack of sleep? Yeah. Pretty much. Prescott looked at me for a second, like he was trying to read my mind. I avoided his eyes and pretended to focus on the fries. Do you ever think? Prescott started, then stopped. What? He exhaled and leaned back in his chair. Never mind. Prescott. What? I hate when you start a sentence and don't finish it. He smiled. I know. So say it. Prescott looked out the window, his gaze distant. Do you think things would be easier somewhere else? I mean, if we were in a different city, a different school, a different life. He shrugged. Where this wouldn't be a problem. I stayed quiet for a few seconds. Maybe, I said, but I think there'd still be people like that everywhere. Yeah. Prescott nodded. Probably. But, I continued, there'd also be people who don't care. He turned to me. Like who? I shrugged. Like me. Prescott froze. His expression changed a flicker of surprise. Then something softer. I know, he said very quietly. A short silence. That's why I called you last night. I tightened my grip on my cup. Yeah. Prescott tilted his head, studying me. You don't think it's weird? Weird what? Me calling you. Me staying in your room. He paused, searching for the word. Being this close. My heart beat faster. I don't think about it like that, I said. Then how do you think about it? I didn't answer right away. Because, honestly, I wasn't sure. I just think. You needed help, I said finally. Prescott smiled faintly. Yeah, I guess. But I could tell he didn't fully believe me. And maybe I didn't either. After lunch, we walked together for a while. Neither of us brought up last night again. Neither of us mentioned how we slept in the same bed. But it was still there. Like an underground current running just beneath the surface. You have afternoon class? Prescott asked. Yeah. 2 o'clock. Me too. We stopped in front of the science building where Prescott's class was. So, see you later? He said. I nodded. Yeah. Prescott started to walk away, but then stopped. Quinlan. I looked up. What? He hesitated for a second. Tonight. You free? For what? Just go somewhere. Not stay in the room. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to keep things simple, to not make everything more complicated. But the other part. Yeah, I said. I'm free. Prescott smiled. Good. Then he walked inside. I stood there watching him go. And this time I didn't wonder if things were changing. I knew they were. I just wasn't ready to face how much. That evening we met in front of the dorm. Prescott was wearing my hoodie. I noticed immediately. You're not giving that back? I asked. He looked down at the hoodie and smiled. I like it. It's mine. Now it's ours. I laughed. You're annoying. You still showed up. God damn it. Where are we going? I asked, changing the subject. A walk, Prescott said. There's a spot I want to show you. Sounds vague as hell. Just trust me. I shouldn't have trusted him. But I followed anyway. We left campus and walked along a quiet path behind the buildings, an area most students didn't go to. It was dark now, lit only by streetlights and faint moonlight. Where exactly are you taking me? I asked. Almost there. We walked a few more minutes before Prescott stopped. In front of us was an open space, a wide grassy field overlooking a small lake. The water reflected the moon, so still it almost didn't feel real. Wow, I muttered. I've known this spot since freshman year, Prescott said. Not many people know about it. It's beautiful. Yeah. We stood there saying nothing, just looking, and feeling a rare kind of peace. Quinlan, Prescott said. What? Last night. He began, his voice slowing. I didn't call you just because I had no one else. I turned to look at him. Then why? Prescott looked straight into my eyes. This time, no avoiding. Because I wanted it to be you. My heart slammed against my ribs. The world around us seemed to go completely quiet. It was just the two of us. Why? I asked, my voice lower than usual. Prescott took a step closer. Because you get it, he said. And because when I'm with you, I don't have to pretend. I swallowed hard. The distance between us now was dangerously small. Prescott. I don't know what this is. He cut me off. I don't know where it's going. But I know one thing. He stopped, eyes never leaving mine. I don't want to stop. I felt like my heart was about to break open. And for the first time, I didn't try to run from the feeling.